Stress that the president, speaks for American foreign policy. He has said that Israel is engaged in indiscriminate bombing in Gaza. So then, wouldn't it stand to reason that this is a violation?
I've answered that question I don't know how many times yesterday. I have nothing more to add on that. The president was referring to concerns that he has and that we have, that we know the intent is there by the Israelis to limit civilian casualties and damage to civilian infrastructure, but sometimes the results don't always come out that way. That's what he was referring to.
You keep stressing their intent, that it's Israel's intent to minimize civilian casualties, but that intention isn't what we're seeing on the ground right now. By the president's own admission, they are bombing indiscriminately. So are you saying that their intent is somehow more important than the result?
Both are important.
Really?
I mean, obviously, the most important thing is the results and outcomes, but it has to be driven by a sincere intent to limit civilian casualties. So both are important. Look, I don't think it's useful to revisit the whole discussion from yesterday because you're not going to get a different answer out of me. We don't want to see a single more innocent civilian killed or wounded. One is too many. We've said that over and over again, and we're working hard with the Israelis. And Jake's doing that right now. To get a better sense of what they can do, as I said in my opening statement, to be more surgical, to be more discriminate in their targeting. That's important. At the same time, it's important that they have the tools and capabilities they need to go after a truly genocidal threat represented by Sinwar and these Hamas terrorists.
Oh, right.
You said that Jake was encouraging the Israelis to start transitioning from a high-intensity to lower-intensity operations in the near future. I know you don't want to get into the timeline, but how would the U.S. Describe low-intensity operations?
I think that's best left to our discussions with the Israelis and for the Israeli Defense Forces to describe. This is something that they have said they're going to do, and they'll do it in their due course. But again, I don't want to get into too much detail here from this particular podium about that.
And if they weren't to transition into those lower-intensity operations in the coming weeks, would the U.S. reconsider its support for Israel at this point?
That's a great hypothetical I'm not going to engage.
Also said that the U.S. remains committed to trying to get back to the table to broker a potential pause to get these negotiations to get hostages out. But the Israeli government called off a trip by the head of the Mossad to travel to Qatar to restart these hostage negotiations. The War Cabinet saying that they felt conditions are not right. Does the U.S. agree with that assessment?
We're still working by the hour to try to get a pause back in place so that hostages can get released. I'll let the Israelis speak to their negotiators and where they are and what they're going to focus on. I can tell you one of the things Jake's doing in the region. I mean, if you need proof that we still want to see a pause, just look at where the National Security Advisor is today. I mean, we are engaging at all levels to try to get that back in place, and we still believe it's possible.
Who needs it?
Yeah, John, I just want to follow up on the West Bank violence. So 275 people have been killed there since October 7th, including 12 just over the last 3 days. In Jenin, are you worried about the violence that you're seeing there and that it could escalate, that it could basically engulf and move the conflict from Gaza, the enclave in the south, to a broader region across the West Bank and potentially even including Palestinians inside of Israel?
Yes, and the president has, from a very early time in this conflict, talked about that exact concern, that exact worry. These numbers are troublesome as well, and we are deeply concerned about that. And that is yet another thing that we continue to talk to our Israeli counterparts about.
So what exactly is the U.S. plan to sort of help these 2.7 million people that are displaced in Gaza right now? I mean, nearly all of them have been forced from their homes. Winter is coming, it's getting colder, there's no food, people are...
That's why even when the pause fell apart, we continued to urge for a flow of humanitarian aid and assistance that was about at that level. Now, we haven't always reached it every day, but we've been trying very hard to keep that level of assistance up. And we're going to continue to do that. I mean, the United States literally is leading the international effort to get food, water, medicine, and fuel into the people of Gaza. And we know that as winter comes, that's going to be even more important. We're not going to lay off that task.
Yes.
Airdrop supplies in?
Airdrops can be done, but the best way to do it in Gaza, just because it's so densely populated and so densely urban, the best and safest way to get it in there, in terms of volume as well, is through trucks.
Okay, and then just one quick question. Today there was an attack reported on a Maersk cargo ship. Do you know anything more about that? Can you give us any details?
I don't have any details on that particular. Are you talking about something in the Red Sea? I'm not familiar with that particular attack.
Oh my God.
On the president's phone call with Turkey and President Erdogan today, can you share any details about their discussion about Turkey's request for the F-16 fighter jets?
We'll have a more detailed readout for you here shortly, I think. President appreciated the time that President Erdogan gave him. They certainly talked about a range of issues, including what's going on in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. They talked about NATO and Sweden's accession, and I do believe just the general support for, again, we'll wait for the readout, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised at all if it was also raised that we continue to support a modernization program for their F-16s.
What did you say?
On the defense budget, are you worried that the extension of FISA, which gives the FBI the power to conduct warrantless spying on surveilling on foreign citizens and Americans who they interact with, do you think that's Americans are also at risk of being spied by the government?
Are you talking about 702?
Yeah, 702.
Yeah, look, we have talked about this for quite some time. We believe that 702 gives us very important tools and capabilities to protect the American people by focusing on the collection of useful intelligence overseas. And that's what it's designed to do. And again, we're watching what's going on in the House. The House Intelligence Committee has put forward a full reauthorization of 702 that we think is worth looking at, and we urge everybody in the House to look at it seriously. There's some reforms in there that I think, as I said earlier, might be a little bit difficult for us to sign up to, but in general, 702. Look, I mean.
Good one.
Zawahiri, right? The colonial pipeline. I could go on and on of things we were able to help improve our safety and security and to go after threats to that safety and security that 702 gave us. So it's really important.
From your experience after 20 years of war in Afghanistan, fighting also ISIS, do you think that Israel is really going to dismantle Hamas with the U.S. corporation?
Our own experience tells us that if you can go after the leadership of a terrorist network, and this isn't just a terrorist network, it's also a military organization as well, that you can have a very significant effect on their ability to plan, train, resource, recruit, retain, and execute attacks.